Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Isha Hanspal. We are back with a weekly show here at WION, bringing you the biggest stories from the world's most volatile region. On the show today, we will discuss how Gazans are observing Ramadan amid attacks and how Iranians are defying laws, even if it is only for a couple of hours. We have lots more lined up for you, but first, the headlines.
Hamas presents a Gaza ceasefire proposal to mediators and the US, which includes the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for freedom of Palestinian prisoners, 100 of whom are serving life sentences, according to a Reuters report. Lebanon's Hezbollah said that it will fight Israeli forces without Iran's help in case of possible provocations. Head of the Iranian Quds Force was in Beirut last week and met with Hassan Nasrallah. New study finds the world's oldest known lipstick was worn up to 5,000 years ago in what is now southern Iran. The deep red lip paint contained in a stone vial was found at an ancient graveyard site in 2001, but it took researchers until now to identify it.
Muslims across the world are celebrating the holy month of Ramadan. Fasting, praying and feasts are the normal in all homes. But in Gaza, this Ramadan is different than the others. More than 31,000 people have been killed. There is no food, no money and very little aid. Misery and devastation have unfortunately become the theme of Ramadan for these Palestinians.
Two chairs placed between debris. This Palestinian couple is having their post-dawn meal in the tent city Rafah. Ramadan this year is different for Gaza. Millions have been displaced, thousands killed, and most of the 2.4 million population rendered homeless.
Last Ramadan, I was at home, sitting and enjoying my dignity. People of goodness provide for us. Okay, similar to this day, where were we? We had flowers, setting up our happy moments. We were setting up with our neighbors and our children, and we were happy. Today, here you go. Look, it's ruins and rubbish. We're sitting on ruins right now and on garbage.
Some people are abstaining from food and water from sunrise to sunset, not because of Ramadan, but because they have no other choice. Many here have not had a proper nutritious meal for weeks. So Sehri and Iftar preparations are out of the question. The spirit of the holy month also seems lost amid this deadly war.
Despite the siege, malnutrition at the beginning of Ramadan and the famine in northern Gaza, our children have been unable to find anything to eat until now. There is no food, no drinking water and no flour.
Starvation looms here. The UN has warned that at least 576,000, that's 1/4 of the population, are on the brink of famine. The people are reliant on international aid, and on some occasions, this very aid takes a deadly turn for Gazans. On the eve of February 28th, thousands of people gathered in Gaza City for aid. There were hopes that the convoy of 8 trucks will bring them desperately needed food. The trucks did arrive next morning, but with them brought the dealers of death. More than 100 people were killed in what the world now calls the Flower Massacre. Some died when Israeli army standing nearby opened fire on them, while others lost their lives in a stampede. For me, Ramadan now means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even Eid, which is coming, will be the worst and darkest. Isn't Ramadan supposed to be blessed? Unfortunately, we are not living the life of Ramadan. We are living a life of war. The hopes for truce are dimmer than ever. Hamas this week proposed new terms for a temporary ceasefire. But will the to and fro be done before Eid or not remains to be seen.
The deepening and now public rift between Benjamin Netanyahu and Joe Biden now threatens the US-Israel relationship. The latest flashpoint is Rafah. Experts say United States can possibly limit weapons delivery to Israel if Netanyahu orders incursion into the cramped city. Our next report gets you more.
He has a right to defend Israel, a right to continue to pursue Hamas, but he must pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost as a consequence of the actions taken. He's hurting, in my view, he's hurting Israel more than helping Israel by making the rest of the world, it's contrary to what Israel stands for.
So to our friends in the international community, I say this: you cannot say you support Israel's right to exist and to defend itself, and then oppose Israel when it exercises that right. You cannot say you support Israel's goal of destroying Hamas and then oppose Israel when it takes the actions necessary to achieve that goal.
One public expression of frustration after another. American officials seem to be having a tough time with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Joe Biden too appears to be distancing himself from Bibi. Biden has for months warned that Israel risks losing international support over mounting civilian casualties in Gaza, where the death toll has passed 31,000. But Netanyahu has maintained that no amount of international pressure can stop Israel from achieving total victory against Hamas. He even claimed to have overwhelming support from American and Israeli citizens. The rift is now fueling speculation that the US might restrict the supply of American weapons, particularly if Netanyahu begins its ground incursion in Gaza. Placing conditions on military aid would be Washington's strongest leverage to affect Israel's conduct of the war. American media reports have quoted anonymous administration sources saying they are considering that option. Officially, the White House has declined to entertain hypotheticals.
The President has been very clear about our position on Rafah, and our position is that a military operation in Rafah that does not protect civilians, that cuts off the main arteries of humanitarian assistance, and that places enormous pressure on the Israel-Egypt border is not something that he can support.
As per law, the US can limit arms supplies. If a country is deemed to be restricting access to US humanitarian aid, what Israel has been accused of doing in Gaza, to add to frustrations and displeasure. The US Office of the Director of National Intelligence, in its latest report, cited deepening distrust of Netanyahu's ability to rule since the war broke. It said that the Prime Minister's viability as leader may be in jeopardy. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who was also the highest-level Jewish lawmaker, also levied some of the harshest criticism yet from a top US official of Netanyahu. He labeled Bibi as an obstruction to peace and called for elections in Israel.
I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel. At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel, at a time when so many Israelis have lost their confidence in the vision and direction of their government.
In Iran, this festival has given people a breather from tough restrictions. Large crowds have packed the streets to celebrate the tradition of Chaharshanbe Suri. Iran has banned dancing in public. It is seen as a way to protest. Our next story tells you more about this.
In Iran, this is a rare annual sight. Hundreds gather in the streets, they dance, sing and celebrate before a new year begins. These people are celebrating the ancient Persian tradition of Chaharshanbe Suri. The ritual is marked on the eve of the year's last Wednesday as per the Persian calendar. People jump over fire, cleanse the spirit from malice of the old year.
I took part in this delightful event. This is a tradition. We want to be happy beside each other to get strength to overcome our problems.
For any other day in the rest of the year, such celebrations are banned. Dancing, especially for men and women together, is banned in public in Iran and has long been a form of protest. When the revolution toppled the monarchy in the year 1979, the new rulers declared an Islamic theocracy. In coming years, they discouraged and even cracked down on Persian celebrations that predated Islam, including Chaharshanbe Suri. But Iranians continue to celebrate the ritual, which they consider an inseparable part of Iranian culture.
I'm not saying this festival is unique, but it's very rare elsewhere. We don't want to forget our past in this modern life. We want to remember that a group of people came to this plateau and called it home. We are their descendants. At least we should transfer these traditions to the next generation.
Since the 2022 Mahsa Amini protests, officials in Iran have further cracked down on motivated public gatherings. But the people have used religious ceremonies like this or even songs and sports events to voice their demand for change. The celebrations often lead to casualties as well. The reason being unsafe handling of homemade explosives and fireworks. Iran's emergency center said that at least 14 people were killed this year and nearly 1,800 suffered burn injuries.
In Iraq, this 58-year-old man is often seen strolling alone near the Tigris River. Closely inspecting the pebbles lying on the banks, he hopes to uncover precious gems among the trail to add to his jewelry catalogue. Take a look.
This is Hashim Swan, a gem hunter in Iraq who spent days on end keenly searching for precious gemstones from piles of pebbles, stones and rocks along the Tigris River in Iraq. The 58-year-old jewelry maker has dedicated years to the craft. His biggest selling point: Swan never trained to be an artisan that makes jewelry. Instead, he learned his craft from YouTube.
I learned most from the Indonesians, how they cut stone, how they make formations, and how they polish their stones. I turned these ideas from theory into work directly, without entering a training course.
Gemstone jewelry is fairly popular in Iraq. The fondness for these accessories is a crucial part of the country's cultural heritage, making it a hot-selling commodity on the country's street for centuries. But over the years, the rise of the laboratory-grown gems has led to a decline in stone experts in the region, especially the city of Mosul.
There were stone experts in Mosul, but this wasn't very popular. It was limited to 1 or 2 people, and this craft disappeared. The craft disappeared from the city.
For Hashim Swan, the expertise lies in his eyes. The lack of elaborate machinery and analytical laboratories makes it an uphill task to identify stone compositions. But relying on the skills learned from Indonesian experts, the jewelry maker measures the density and hardness of the stone to determine its type, keeping the craft of handmade artisan jewelry alive.
Do you get stressed before a big flight? Don't worry. There is now a solution. The Istanbul airport has introduced a therapy dog program to help reduce stress and anxiety among passengers. Ramadan has begun. Millions in West Asia are celebrating the holy month. They are praying, they are hopping to markets and spending precious moments with their families. At the end of the show today, we get you some glimpses. That's all we have for you on this edition of the West Asia Post. We will see you next week with a brand new lineup. Till then, keep watching WION World is One for all the global news and updates.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injured have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
From New York, we get you to the sandy shores of Durban, where I'll bring you all the glitz, glam, and happenings from the world of showbiz.
Welcome to the Eras Tour. And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
This week on E-Club, we look at the predictions by The Simpsons that ended up being true and get you a list of all that happened at the 96 Academy Awards. We also tell you some rare facts about the Indian superstar Alia Bhatt as she turns a year older. With me, Alison Lagrange, at these times only on WION.
This week on Melt, consumer strategy expert Rama Bijapurkar talks about her latest book, Lilliput Land, and about why small is the new big.
Supply is inhibiting consumption because the consumer is ready, willing, waiting, and the supplier is saying, you know, let the ugly duckling become the beautiful swan. I only want the rich consumer. I'll think about it. So my advice to CMOs would be that the small sector is actually getting more agile, more nimble, more customer oriented. And so you will have greater and greater trouble proving value to the consumer. So please take a look at them and learn from them.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved. 61 people are confirmed dead and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees